Pasta is incredibly simple. It's also really complicated. Today, we're gonna cover the mistakes you could be making so you can make perfect pasta at home. Let's get stuck in. So for this video, I had to dial a friend, and of course, I went to the pasta wizard himself, Evan Funky. If you don't know who Evan is, he's a restaurateur based in Los Angeles, but is known for going to the source, going and hanging out with nonnas all over Italy and learning all about pasta, fresh pasta in particular. Now, you might think Evan, with his broad knowledge of fresh pasta, would be against dried pasta, but quite the opposite.
The vast majority of pasta being eaten in the world is dried pasta. If I'm eating pasta, I'm eating dried pasta, or I'm tasting noodles in my own restaurants for analytical purposes.
So the first dish I'm going to share with you today is a Bucatini alla matriciana, which is a Roman dish made with dried pasta. So Bucatini looks like spaghetti, but it's got a hole running down the center of it. It's probably gonna be pretty hard to show you. And it's a bit thicker than spaghetti, quite a hearty pasta. So a real simple pasta, only 6 ingredients, good quality tin tomato, guanciale, pecorino, chili flakes, pasta, a little bit of white wine. Great if you work with your hands or you work in a physical job, because this is sure to fill you up.
A lot of them have been designed for the caloric intake so that one could go back to work.
First things first, let's get this guanciale sorted. If you don't know what this is, it's pig jowl. This part, cured in salt. If you can't find this, you could just replace it with some pancetta. And if you can't find that, you could just use a bit of bacon. However, the Romans will probably say that then that's not this dish, but that's okay because you're just cooking it at home and no one's gonna know. So we're gonna take the skin off first. You can save that, put that in the freezer, and then next time you're making like a big ragu or a stew or bolognese, put that in there, lots of flavor in there. And we're just gonna dice this guanciale. So into a cold pan, heat on like a medium heat, and then we'll just let that render down and get all lovely and crispy. And this is one of the things that I think people often get wrong in home cooking. If you're trying to render down fat and guanciale or stuff like this, it takes a bit of time, right? Notice I haven't even got my pasta on yet. So until this is rendered down, I'm not gonna add my tomato or start cooking my pasta. We've got some really nice color here. It's gonna take this off the heat and we can get our pasta cooking. So a decent amount of water needs a decent amount of salt. Another thing I think people get wrong when they're cooking pasta at home, that's a lot of water there. It's gonna require a decent amount of salt. Don't be shy. The other thing I think people get wrong is there's this old saying that it should taste like the ocean. I think that is not true. If it tastes like the ocean, it's probably too salty. So what should it taste like? It should taste like well-seasoned water. You know when you taste ocean water, it's like, it fully destroys your palate. It's not like, oh, that's like well-seasoned. It's like, that's destroyed my palate. That tastes like a well-seasoned stock without the stock part. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but we're going with it. So the water is boiling. Now, there is a reason you see chefs do this, and that's because it spreads out evenly across the pot. Everyone always breaks their pasta because they think it's not all getting in. Trust me, it's gonna soften really quickly and it will go to the bottom. The next thing that I think people get wrong is that they put oil in their pasta water, and it's absolutely not necessary. It doesn't really do anything. You can do it if you want, but you're just wasting oil. How you keep this from sticking together is you stir it. So sauce back on a medium heat. I'm gonna add our chili flakes here. Ooh. I'm just gonna add about half a teaspoon, and pot size for your pasta is important too. The truth be told, that's probably a little bit big for the amount of pasta I've got there. If it's too small though, you're gonna struggle to kind of get it to cook evenly. You can also do it in like a wider, shallower pot, but you need enough water to make sure that there is boiling water covering the pasta or it won't cook evenly. All right, before we completely destroy our chili flakes, I'm gonna deglaze with a bit of white wine. Just let some of that harsh booze burn off. You can see the sauce is just looking so good already. All that is the emulsification of the white wine and the fat from the guanciale. Now we're gonna add our tomatoes. So these are San Marzano whole tomatoes that I've just run my hand through and crushed, and there you go. Now medium heat. You don't need to cook these for long. As long as that pasta takes to cook, and these tomatoes will be good to go. So while we're waiting for that to happen, we are gonna grate some of our pecorino cheese. We wanna emulsify some cheese through the whole pasta dish. We also want some for the top. Okay, so this is kind of the viscosity of the sauce that we're looking for. Like a really dark red color, lovely and rich. You don't want it too thick. You also don't want it too thin as well. You want the sauce to really coat this pasta nicely. Just a touch of salt. So, how do you know when your pasta's cooked? Well, pasta like steaks. There's a wrong way and a right way to cook pasta, but truth be told, how al dente you like your pasta is completely up to you. I like mine quite firm, so I'm gonna pull out a bit earlier, but other people like it a bit more cooked, and that's personal preference. You do you. For me, that's good to go. Now, I don't think there's any need to use a colander. I think you can just use tongs, carefully pour it up and put it straight into the sauce. And another thing a lot of people get wrong, including my own mother, serving sauce on top of pasta instead of actually stirring it through is a big no-no. So on it goes, stir it through, in goes our pecorino. Also gonna add a little drizzle of really nice extra virgin olive oil, and just to loosen our sauce up a little bit, it's a little splash of our pasta water. Look at that. I was saying yesterday, I just can't believe that growing up, eating spaghetti out of a can was a thing. When you can make something like this with 6 ingredients. All right, a little bit of cheese. Whatever you do, don't put parsley or basil on this. This needs nothing else. It's rich, salty, full of umami from the tomato, and comfort food at its finest. All with 6 ingredients. Even Ben could make this. Even Liam could make this. Liam, you should make this. I'm eating from the pot because we need to take a photo of that one, sorry. There's nothing more I can say. It's delicious, make it. The dried pasta is fantastic, definitely has its use in the home kitchen and in the restaurant kitchen, but fresh pasta is also delicious. And yes, I do encourage you to make your own fresh pasta. There's also nothing wrong with buying good quality fresh pasta. So why would you want fresh pasta over dried pasta? Well, I think for things like lasagnas, fresh pasta makes so much of a difference. Also things with really delicate flavors and delicate textures, like a crab linguine, absolutely perfect. So I've got some beautiful fresh pasta that I've brought from a local little deli, but most supermarkets these days range a decent quality fresh pasta. So to make this linguine, you've got some really good quality extra virgin olive oil here on a really low heat. Okay, so fresh pasta cooks a lot faster than dried pasta. So we're gonna make sure we have everything 100% ready. We're gonna finish with a bit of flat leaf parsley. So I've got some parsley here, and you only really wanna run your knife through it once, otherwise it can start to taste a bit like grass clippings. So we want to infuse our oil. That's on a very low heat, just coming and tempering. I think another thing that often people get wrong with pasta is that they put too much garlic in it, especially in a pasta like this. I've got 1 clove of garlic that I've just crushed, and that's going into the oil. We're just trying to infuse the oil with the garlic. The garlic is not staying in there. I think there's a misconception that Italian food is very garlic forward. And there's certainly dishes that do have a lot of garlic, but the majority of Italian food is actually quite light on garlic. And same with chili flakes. We've got a few chili flakes here just to infuse our oil. We are not trying to have a spicy dish here. We just want a little bit of background heat, very similar to how you would season with pepper. Okay, this is all gonna happen really quickly. Don't panic, but it's gonna happen quickly. I've got a pot of boiling water here. We're gonna add our pasta. Just like before, no need to add oil. Just add your pasta, give it a stir, let it come back up to the boil. Now, we're gonna pull our garlic out. That's done its job. We're gonna turn the heat up, and then immediately we're gonna add all our fresh crab meat. That's quite a lot of crab meat, but you know, I like it. Now, sometimes you can't find fresh picked raw crab meat. If you're just using picked cooked crab meat, that's also fine. Okay, we just need to get some heat through that. We don't need to like cook it really hard or anything like that. We're not trying to fry it or get crispy skin or anything. So stir it through the oil and the garlic. We're gonna season it with a little bit of salt, not heaps. And I'm gonna add a little bit more olive oil to that. Olive oil is a prominent flavor in this pasta, so don't be afraid of it. That crab's about 50% cooked at this point, which is good. Just gonna check in our pasta, give it a stir. It needs another 60 seconds max. A little bit of white wine, and that goes. So don't forget, you can put the pasta into this pot now, no problem at all. That crab will continue to cook even once there's pasta in there. All right, our crab's cooked, our pasta's cooked. We're gonna add the pasta to the sauce. And now we get our microplane and we add our pecorino cheese. Just joking. Just like this, you don't wanna add cheese because it's gonna completely overpower the delicate flavor of the crab. So we're just adding some lemon zest to brighten it up. Cheese on seafood and Italian food is often a big faux pas. That's not always necessarily true.
I think that it's a misconception. It was born from the seafood risotto. Having cheese in a seafood risotto is an absolute no. But you go to Puglia, to the seaside, you have burrata with a crudo of prawns on top. You go to Rome and you have bufala with anchovies. You see it everywhere.
All right, carefully stir our crab and oil sauce through the pasta. Add a little bit more extra virgin olive oil, and we're just gonna finish it with the flat leaf parsley. Look at that. Simplicity at its finest. A few ingredients, an absolute luxury in a bowl. This is a perfect pasta, I think, like lunchtime in the summer, our fresco style, incredible. Or if you're trying to impress some mates and you're having a couple of different courses, it's a great pasta course to have because you can just serve like a smallish portion, followed by some beef or something in the next course to fill people up. Let's plate it up and have a taste. It's light and fresh and delicate. Very different to the last pasta dish we had. And the reason I think that the fresh pasta works so well in there is because of the texture. Quite delicate, which works really well with the delicate crab meat. Delicious. And now for something a little bit more fancy. Okay, so next up we're gonna make a recipe that Chef Evan sent to me. So thank you for that, Chef, I appreciate it. And it starts with making pasta from scratch, which I think everyone should learn how to do. It's a very satisfying thing to do. It takes a bit of time, a bit of practice, but once you nail it, it's a life lesson worth having. So for my basic pasta recipe that I use for any fresh pasta that I'm making at home, I go with a simple ratio of 1 egg to 100 grams of flour, which is Tipo 00 flour, which is it's a pasta flour or a pizza flour. It's quite fine, high protein flour. So for each 1 egg, 100 grams of flour is roughly 1 person. So I'm gonna make enough for 3 people. I'm making 300 grams of flour, 3 eggs. Should have enough pasta roughly for 3 people. Add your flour to a board and then put a well on the center. Crack your 3 eggs in the bowl and whisk them so that they're reasonably homogeneous. Pour the egg into the center of it. Using a fork, start whisking the flour in from the inside towards the outside. Once you're not gonna have egg fly everywhere, you can start using a bench scraper to cut the flour into the liquid. Once that starts becoming effective, use your hands to knead your dough together, and then you're gonna knead the dough for about 3 or 4 minutes until it becomes reasonably smooth. Put it into an airtight bag and rest it for like an hour, hour and a half at room temperature, or even overnight in the fridge. So it should feel slightly elastic, right? It hasn't rested yet at this point, so when you push it, it should bounce back a little bit, but not all the way. It should feel soft and silky into the hand and firm but pliable. If your dough feels a little bit dry, you can just add a little bit of water to let it down, but be very careful. Adding water to already formed dough can often end up in big messes, so add just little bits at a time until you get the right consistency. But like Evan said, and like a lot of things in life,
practice equals proficiency. It does not ever equal perfection. The very worst that can happen is pasta. So just make pasta, you know, it's gonna be okay.
So for the filling in Chef Evan's recipe, he asked for dandelion tops. I've never seen them here in Australia. So what I've got instead is some green endive. And then I have some, what we call silver beet, can also be known as Swiss chard. But like Chef said, you can use any greens you want.
A huge amount of Italian cuisine and cucina povera, the poor kitchen, comes from foraging of greens, going into the wild and selecting things that are edible that the land gives off. So this can be chards, Swiss chard, cavolo nero, dandelion greens, the tops to your turnips, the tops to your radishes, anything that's green, spinach even.
Boil those for about 5 to 6 minutes. I'm gonna plunge these into ice cold water to stop them from cooking.
We kind of call this the grandma filling because I've seen a version of this in a multitude of homes and kitchens. I always say Italians cook vegetables perfectly and then they cook them another 15 minutes. And so this is stracotto, extra cooked greens.
Onto a clean tea towel, spread it out, roll it up. Now we want to get as much moisture out of this as we can. Now we're going to run our knife through it so it's all nice and fine, nicely chopped up. To our saucepan, we're going to add the olive oil too, decent amount. We're going to add 1 little spicy chili cut in half, a couple of cloves of garlic just crushed. Again, we're just trying to infuse this oil. I'm going to add our greens. I'm going to turn the temperature down to medium. I'm just going to fry these for about 20 minutes. Just stirring pretty frequently, making sure they don't catch. If they start browning at all, just add a little bit of water. So spread it out in a tray. Then we're gonna find our little chilies and garlic and we're gonna remove those. Put this in the fridge or leave it somewhere to cool completely and then we'll start making the rest of the filling. We've got our ricotta, our cooked and chilled greens, our parmesan, and then grated nutmeg. I love nutmeg and nutmeg loves me. That's about 1/4 of a grated nutmeg. Just a little bit of salt to season, work it all together. Okay, super important, make sure you taste your filling. Once this goes into pasta, nothing you can do about it. You can adjust the seasoning now. It's incredible, very delicious. All right, I'm gonna pop this in the fridge and we'll start rolling out our pasta. I have rested this pasta at room temperature so it's nice and pliable. If you have rested it overnight in the fridge or you've put it in the fridge at all, I do suggest leaving it out for an hour to get back to room temperature at least. If, like me, you're gonna roll it by hand. However, if you do have a pasta rolling machine, I won't judge you if you do use one. That's perfectly fine. So to roll pasta, the first thing we need to do is to laminate it. So we've got our pasta, you know, when we put it to rest, I made sure it was in like a little rectangle shape. And there's a reason for that. We kind of want to keep this, doesn't have to be perfect, but in the rectangle shape throughout. So I've got some flour here for when I need it, but right now we just kind of want to roll it to laminate. So first things first, I'm going to push down about 5 or 6 times just to start flattening it and then roll it out. Now, we're going to do lamination or like an envelope fold. So we've got it roughly 3 times longer than it is wide, fold it over 2/3 of the way, and then the other side 2/3 of the way. And when you've got edges like this, you can just manipulate them so that they come all the way to the end. Flatten it out and roll. If I was using a pasta machine, an electric roller, I'd laminate that one more time. But when I'm doing it by hand, I usually just do it once. I think that's enough. Now it's time to roll. And it's pretty simple. We're gonna keep rolling until we get to the thickness that we want. We're gonna use as little flour as possible, but you might need some at some point. And it just takes patience. And just like Evan said, it's also about resting our dough.
The gluten matrix that we're trying to find, this balance between extensibility and elasticity, can be made in 2 ways. One of that is work, the other is rest.
So if you feel like you're rolling and it's not going any further, just put a tea towel over it, walk away and come back to it. Okay, so we want roughly 6 centimeter squares. In goes the filling, decent amount. You want these pretty full. Tray ready, a little bit of flour, not too much though. Then a little bit of water handy. So I like to start by just giving the sides a little stretch. We are trying to really fill these up pretty full. So if you're struggling, you can pull a little bit of filling out, but these should be pretty tight. Then we're gonna find the top corner and we're gonna spread a little bit of water along the 2 sides running down from the top corner. And take the bottom corner, and go to the top corner and pinch it, and then making sure our hands are clean, we're gonna pinch all the way down, trying to keep in all that filling so we have a triangle that's full of our ricotta mixture. Really important that we crimp that tight and none of that filling can get out, because if we don't, and there's a little gap when we're boiling them, all that filling is gonna spill out and your pasta's ruined. Now, taking the 2 bottom corners, pinch one with your index finger and your thumb, roll it around to the center, bring the other one towards it, and then pinch it tight, and you can go and reshape, making sure that seam is nicely closed. And one of the best parts about this pasta dish is the fact that all the hard work's done now. So if you have got friends around for a dinner party, it's perfect. Once you've made them, put them in the fridge and then just pull them out. We're gonna boil them quickly, like 2 minutes max, into our sauce and done. So today, I'm just going the straight butter out.
Sauce work for this can be something as simple as a smashed clove of garlic, some picked marjoram, pine nuts even. I mean, it's endless applications of the condimenti.
There you go. A simple dish of ricotta and green tortellacci with a butter sauce. Looks very simple on the plate, but there's a lot of technique and love that goes into it. Let's see what it tastes like. It's so good. The seasoning of that nutmeg comes through really nicely. That little tiny hint of chili and garlic, and then the pop of flavor that you get from that hot ricotta with those greens through it. Absolutely stunning dish. One of the reasons I absolutely love Italian food is the simplicity of it and also the passion behind it. It sounds kind of cliche, but the Italians are so passionate about their food, and for good reason. It's all about history and family for them.
Tradition in its essence, in my opinion, is something that you're moved to do again and again. All of the creativity that came from these women's hands was born out of the necessity to feed one's family from very meager means. And how else can we hide the fact that you're going to eat the same shit today? This is flour and water. How can we bend it? How can we curl it? How can we drag it in order to create something a little bit more creative and a little bit different? So I just find that to be a very beautiful thing.
This stuff is delicious. Take the time to learn how to make it and you'll have it in your arsenal forever. Thanks for watching, Legends. A huge thank you to Evan Funky for jumping on a call with me. I really appreciate that, chef. If you're ever in Los Angeles, go check out one of his restaurants. They're all linked below, and we'll see you next week for another recipe. Peace.